Next audition, please. Hello. I'm auditioning for the part Benny, aka Benkipo, for the live action. So yeah, here I go. Hello. Stop. That was beautiful. You got the part. Oh, awesome. When do I start? Right now. Oh, right now? Oh, okay. Welcome to the 1K Q&A. Before we get into any questions, I just wanted, of course, to give my thanks to you, the viewer. Making videos about Pomble Quest is rewarding in its own right, but having y'all watch and engage with my content really is something special for me. So I just want to say thanks so much. Whether you've seen all my videos, seen a few, or maybe this is your first one, I'm thankful all the same. Also, we reached this milestone just right before the 1-year anniversary of the channel, which is a nice bonus since it was a loose goal of mine to reach this milestone. But now with that out of the way, let's get on to questions. To get us more familiar, let's start with some questions about me, and then we'll work our way towards the Pomble Quest questions. So first question, how long have you been doing art? Since I was a kid, I always really enjoyed drawing. I used to doodle all over my homework and on the back of my tests, but I stopped for a decent chunk of my teenage years because drawing was kind of discouraged in my household a bit. But I picked it up again in college, like my junior year of college. So back in 2018, I got an iPad because I really wanted to get into digital art, and I've been drawing more consistently ever since. What inspires you when you draw up your doodle boards? Also, how and when do you create them? As far as inspiration goes, it really is anything and everything. I'm constantly seeing art all around me and everything is really inspiring. I try to draw in it every day, but I do get really lazy about it, and realistically, it probably is more like I draw in it like 2 times a month, if even that. Sometimes more, sometimes less. It just depends if I have like something I need to draw. For example, I need to draft up some Pow ideas, or sometimes ideas just come to me and I'm just like really motivated to draw it. So it really is inconsistent. Do you have any past projects like your current one, Pomble Quest? I only have one other project, that being Sweet Dreams. It's essentially just a world that I created so that these silly characters I designed can live in. So there's no real story or really anything. It's just a place where my characters can live and interact with one another if I choose to like illustrate that. And fun fact, Pomble Quest pretty much came from that. I did a little series called Critter Catch where I essentially introduced like a little monster catcher thing inside Sweet Dreams. But you know, eventually I wanted it to become its own big thing, and that's how Pomble Quest came to be. What is your main goal as a YouTuber / artist? Oof, hitting me with the big questions. As far as goals, they're constantly changing. When I first started the channel, it was pretty much like this channel was the goal, to see if I could do YouTube videos, which I never have really done before, and you know, about my creature collector project, which was pretty like bare bones at the time, and honestly still really is, and just trying to continue to explore what this world looks like and what I want it to be. Like, I mean, only recently did I decide that I kind of wanted it to be a game, so that's already changed a lot of the goals. But I guess that's like really my next goal, is to try to really have a finished project of some sort. Right now it's looking to be a tabletop RPG because I've gotten like really deep in that rabbit hole recently, but I'll talk more on that in a future video. But yeah, just continuing to explore Pomble Quest and to have some kind of finished product associated with it. Now moving on to the last question about me. What hobbies are you up to when you're not drawing / creating? Gaming is honestly a huge one. I spent a lot of time gaming, more than I care to admit, but yeah, they're really big to me. I feel like games do such a good job of like world building and telling stories, and it's just like fun to like be an active participant in it, because I feel like with shows or a book, I feel like I'm kind of experiencing it through someone else's lens. I mean, even in a game when I'm playing as someone else, I just feel like I'm more connected to them, and they do tend to be a blank slate, at least the games I play. Like Pokemon, Undertale, even Breath of the Wild. Yeah, I just really enjoy games. Lately, other than gaming, I go really deep into learning about tabletop RPGs, which again is just another form of gaming, but I've been really excited learning about that, you know, exploring that whole world. But yeah, now let's move on to some questions about Pomble Quest. And starting with a great one from friend of the channel, Mr. Bonnie John. About how many Pombles do you feel would be right for this game / concept? AKA, how many Pombles do you think you have left to make? Honestly, a tough question. I guess if I had to give an initial number just off the bat, maybe 200. And that's kind of loosely based on Gen 1 in Pokemon, with Gen 1 having 151. I just feel like that's like a solid base number, but I did increase it to 200 because I feel like in those base games they could have done with a handful more of designs. For example, like in the Elite Four, you have Agatha, the ghost type trainer, and she has like only one ghost line basically. She has 3 ghost Pokemon, but like I think 2 of it are Haunter and 1's Gengar, and then the rest are just poison types. So she just feels a little lacking, like there wasn't enough ghost type mons to fill her team. And then just like more examples like that. But so that's why I'm kind of just like picked the loose number 200. I think 200 is like minimum for me. It really will just depend on the game's needs, because this isn't Gen 1 Pokemon. Ideally my world is bigger than that, so I'd like to have at least 200. But yeah, I think the project is still too early to say. I think once I get closer to 200, I will have to start seriously like looking at what this project needs, and I think that will better inform it. But for now, I'm just like kind of chipping my way to 200 because I feel like it's like the bare minimum for me. So hope that kind of answers it. Do you ever feel constrained by other IPs when designing your creatures? Like, do you ever worry something is too much like Pokemon or Digimon, etc.? I've been trying to answer this question without a script, but it's a really difficult question, and I definitely want to get the answer right, so I'll be reading off what I wrote here. I constantly think about it. When creating anything, it's almost always going to be derivative of something else. One big example of this for me is Pokemon. Since Pokemon is such a big part of my life, I always fear how much Pokemon shows up in my work. But I also believe that Pokemon part of me that makes up my artist DNA and that shows up in my work is ultimately kind of mine. The things we are inspired by will inevitably find their way into our work. But I think our goal as creatives, as artists, is to take it, mix it with other sources of inspirations, part of ourselves, and transform it until it is our own unique thing. And it can be hard to draw the lines where something is inspired by or just a blatant ripoff of something else. So it's kind of up to every artist to use their best judgment and really decide if they're bringing something new to the table. So while it can feel limiting to always have to sidestep anything that has already been done, in a way, everything has already been done, but nothing in existence has ever been done by me. So it's my personal challenge to see how I can make it and how I can make it my own. But yeah, this is a huge topic I constantly mull over in my head because I think it's important that I'm not just replicating, but I am contributing part of myself so that it is something completely new. Anyway, I hope that was somewhat satisfactory. Do you have any human characters? If you do, can we have a video about them? I don't really have any concrete characters in mind, but I recently talked about the ally companion system that I plan on having in Pomble Quest, so I definitely want to start working on some of those characters real soon. How much RNG will be present in the combat system? I'm still working on it like anything else on the project, but I'm thinking something as swingy as D20 system from Dungeons and Dragons. I think it has a nice level of randomness just because my game isn't going to be hyper competitive. It's definitely more about the fun and lightness side of things. Yeah, I think D20-ish kind of system, but it's still in the works. How do you name your Pombles? Great question. Honestly, for some of them, it comes right away. Great example is a drill bee. I mean, the design is basically just a guy with a drill, and then I just added bee because it just sounds like kind of cute. And then for a decent chunk of them, I do kind of do that thing that Pokemon does where they take like 2 words matched together and kind of like link it very cleverly, like Eggtricity, Zaptor, like those kind of names do that. But I've been trying to step away from that just because it does feel very Pokemon to me, even though I know other things do it and it's been done like forever. But yeah, I'm trying to move on to different kind of naming conventions. Some of the newer ones are just like really random, or I take a word, just like one singular word, and I just try to tweak it a little bit because it can be hard to start from like nothing. Like Jetpo, for example, the Po part doesn't mean anything. I just thought the Pomble looked like a jet, and I just tried to keep distorting it a little bit to make it work. But yeah, hope that answers that. What country is Leika based on? Would there be different parts of Leika that are based on different cultures? Currently, Leika is still really bare bones, but I actually don't have any plans to base it on a certain culture. I actually never have enjoyed that about Pokemon personally. I'd much rather just do kind of like a generic kind of a land. And yeah, so I don't know what the cultures within it look like. It'll probably be a mismatch of what I know, just because I feel like it's really dangerous territory for me to like try to do other cultures, just because I'm not really well versed in it. But also I just enjoy like, you know, making it up. Are you going to give the Pomble starter evolutions or replacing them with new ones? So the starters being referred to right here, I think, are Thiefdo, Kabeetle, and Drillbee. And it's a little misleading because, yeah, in the thumbnail of the video, I talked about starters. They're on the cover. But in that video, I actually talk about how I don't have any starters. But that was before that I thought this project was going to be a game. And so that will change a little bit. I still don't think they will be starters. And also in regards to them, I never plan on giving them evolutions. I kind of like them as they are, just like 3 little guys. So they'll probably stay that way. But yeah, I hope that clears that up. So for these next batch of questions, I'll kind of group them as the will you do blank thing kind of questions. And essentially, they're going to have a lot of the same answers because this project is really early on. So the answer will be like, yeah, sure, maybe. It's really too early to say for a lot of these questions, but I'll do my best to answer them. Will there be a gimmick similar to Mega Evolution from Pokemon, Armored Digivolution from Digimon, or something else? As of right now, there's no plans for one, just because I don't have like a full roster realized yet. And I feel like for Pokemon Mega Evolutions, for example, was one way to kind of give love to older mons and kind of highlight them again. But I feel like since this is like my first generation, you know, the designs are all being introduced fresh. And I feel like to give some of them special treatment feels a little bad. But if I were to do something, I would like to give it to all. But again, this is like really early, so I can't say yet, but would like to like think about it down the line for sure. Next question in a similar vein, are you going to be doing regional variants? Similar answer to the last question. Regional variants were kind of a way to reintroduce older mons, you know, in new context. And since all the Pombles I'll be introducing are basically new, I just don't see a reason to. And I also haven't even worked out how like regions work, since I'm still working on like the first setting for Pomble Quest. So yeah, would be cool maybe down the line if there's a lot of regions. I love regional variants, but yeah, no plans for mine currently. Have you thought about who the villain of the game would be, or if it needs one? I thought about a villain somewhat, but it's definitely not the current focus. Right now, I'm just trying to build a world that like multiple stories could be set in. So in theory, there could be multiple villains, there could be no villains. Yeah, it just depends on the story I write, but right now there's like literally no story, so no villains. Is there going to be Shinies? Currently on the like Pomble bio pages, I do show a color variant, but I actually haven't worked out how it's gonna work yet. Like in its current state, it essentially is like a shiny, like it's just an alternate colorway that is like a lot rarer. But I would like to do it a little bit differently because again, I'm always trying to deviate from Pokemon. So I would like to maybe do like multiple color variants, or maybe a color variant like does something extra special, like it changes this type, or I don't know, something. I haven't really worked it all out, but would like to think further on it. But definitely color variants, because it's just something I really love. Like, I just love variation. Do you have any gym or champion-like system? Would they be type-based or have other themes? I have an older video that talks a little bit about this topic, but essentially in my world, I have star stadiums, which are kind of like Pokemon gym equivalents, but they're more like a tournament where you battle against other scouts that are the same rank as you. So instead of battling like one gym leader that battles every single person to test them, I would just have like scouts go against other scouts, and then when they win, they get a star instead of a gym badge. And the events wouldn't always be maybe battling. I dabbled with like some other ideas of what other like events could be, but again, all still really in the works. So we'll have to see. Are there any mechanics other than battling, like breeding, etc.? Since combat is kind of the main focus of Pomble Quest, I've been putting a lot of my efforts on really trying to nail that down. So I haven't thought about like other mechanics, but breeding was mentioned, and that's something I actually don't plan on including at all. I just think breeding could be a funny topic. In my world, actually, I'm still working out the lore, but Pombles actually don't breed. That's not how they're reproduced or produced, I should say. Again, still ironing that out, but no breeding. Will you do a breakdown of the current type chart? What is effective against what? Since types are kind of currently still being decided, I haven't really worked on a type chart, but I've actually been thinking a lot about like types not working in the same way it does with Pokemon, you know, like this type being like super effective or weak against this type. I've actually only recently considered the idea of each Pomble having their own unique weaknesses and resistances. I just think that's a lot more interesting. I also think the type chart is just like impossible to follow. It's just like too crazy. And I think it's just personally like easier to like balance and change things to each individual Pomble. Those are my current plans. You can let me know what you think of that. It does differ a lot from Pokemon, but again, I don't really like Pokemon's typing system, so yeah, let me know. All right, now lastly, we'll finish some with some fun questions, or at least fun for me. Favorite Pokemon and type? Honestly, my favorite changes all the time. I think right now it's gotta be Hoo-Hoo though. I'm just like super into that bird. Some of my past favorites include Magikarp, Charizard, Typhlosion, Gengar, Dragonite. Grimmsnarl's kind of floated at the top but never made it. Corviknight kind of hovers around there too, but yeah. And then Zacian. I really like Zacian too, but yeah, Hoo-Hoo is the one right now. And then as far as typing goes, I've always liked fire type. I think ghost type's really cool too. Those two, like, I feel like always have like really solid mons. I've always liked steel and dragon too. Close seconds. Which Pomble was the easiest / hardest to finalize? Easiest Pomble definitely has to be Pebble. I just think once I decided that like I wanted to do a pet rock, I mean, you know, the design was pretty much there. I mean, even though he's really simple, I really love him. And again, like that's kind of what he's made to do. And I think he's excelling at it. So Pebble for sure for easiest. In terms of hardest, it's probably going to be Lancet. I really struggled with Lancet for a couple of reasons. For the first reason, Lancet was actually the first legendary Pomble I designed. It had the tough task of kind of like defining what a legendary Pomble looked like how how much detail should go in it, how complex should it look complex at all, just like things like that. And then on top of that, it was also helping to establish the core themes of the quartet, because I've already decided that there would be a group of 4 weapons or 4 mounts that are like kind of based around weapons, and I was trying to figure out how to do that with Lancet, and that would kind of help inform how the other 3 would look. So it was really tough to do all that on one Pomble, when most of the time like I just draw a little guy and I'm like, oh, that's cute, like yeah, that'll be a Pomble. Yeah, Lancet for sure. What's your favorite and least favorite Pomble? I'll start off with my least favorite first, and I don't hate this Pomble at all. It's just I think one of my weaker designs, and I don't really have much of an attachment to it either, but that's gonna be Flitterbee. I just think it's a little bland without an evolution. I think it's definitely begging for one. It's definitely one I'd like to revisit, but yeah, I just, you know, it's a little bland. Also, I just really kind of hate the name too. I haven't come up with a better name. I've been really thinking hard, honestly, but I just cannot come up with anything, because I just think Flitterbee doesn't really fit it. I feel like Flitterbee feels kind of pixie-ish or like a little bit more magical, but this one's just like a little ghost bat. But yeah, Flitterbee. My favorite Pomble though, I've actually always think about this. There's definitely a lot of contenders. Every time I make a Pomble, I'm always like, ooh, is this my new favorite? But none has topped Thief Toe. I think Thief Toe is, it's gotta be my favorite. He's just been there since the beginning. I can't remember if it was him or Kabeetle that came first, but they were essentially one of the first like Pombles I ever made, and pretty much kind of led to this project. But yeah, Thief Toe I do love a lot more, just because, you know, he's a little sinister. He plays into my bias, which is like little bad looking dudes. Like, you know, they don't look like they're up to any good. I think his shape language is really fun too. I really like the long nose on this really chubby little small body. And even though like he represents a mosquito, he looks also very different from like any real life mosquito. You know, he's very cartoonized, which I really like. But yeah, Thief Toe for sure. Now, I hate to pick favorites, but this was my absolute favorite question. If you would create a team from current Pombles, what would it be? Oh, I love this question so much, so thanks so much for asking it. Again, in my world, it's a team of 6, so I'll be choosing 6. And it was really hard to choose a 6 from my current like roster of Pombles, but I eventually decided on Fiendle, Chaka, Dumasaur, Dogra, Barfby, and Thifto, of course. I just think Dogra being in that group is like so funny because they're all kind of pretty much like bad looking guys, and then you have like the goodest of boys being Dogra. So I think that's really fun, and again, they all just played into my personal biases, that being sinister looking Pombles and dogs. But that's it for all the questions for this Q&A. Thanks so much for submitting all your questions, and sorry if I didn't get to yours. So to wrap up, I just wanted to talk about, YouTube and Pomble Quest, and this has all been such like a crazy ride to me. I kind of started this on like a hyper fixation with like Pokemon and creature collectors, and I think it's really turned into something a lot bigger and a lot more important to me actually. I didn't think I'd be so invested at this point, and it's been really exciting. I fall in love with the project constantly, and it's really just thanks to everyone's watching the video, engaging. It really keeps me motivated to put out YouTube videos about Pomble Quest and to keep making content for it. So I just wanted to say thanks, and I hope you're excited for the future of Pomble Quest, because I am, and I'm excited to see where it goes. It's changed so much already, so yeah, I'm excited for it. With that all out of the way, thanks so much for watching, and I will see ya next time. Do you like beans? Funny story, I actually didn't like beans until really recently. I used to hate beans like most of my life, but I really hate like not liking foods. So I've been trying to get myself to like beans for quite some time now. Like I pretty much like order it every time, like like I'm getting a burrito or anything like that. Like I don't exclude it, and now I do like them. So a little fun story there. If you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be? I'd probably be a dog, just because I love dogs. Yeah, dogs. Favorite dinosaur? Okay, real basic, but I like the T-Rex. It's iconic. It's like big, strong dinosaur. I like it. Welcome to the 1K Q&A. Before we just go, welcome to the 1K Q&A. Too much smiling, too much. Welcome to the 1K, I'm reading the script. Welcome to the 1K Q&A. Before we get into questions, I just wanted to,